Hey everyone, I just wanted to share with you today how to make asparagus perfect every single time. So of course you're going to want to cook your asparagus on your bond mat and perforated baking sheet, or your flexi pan would work as well. So when I have the asparagus, I've already washed it and I just want to show you how I trim the edges. You're just going to break the asparagus to where it naturally breaks, and that takes off the end that's very tough, and a lot of times people don't like asparagus because of the chewiness of that end piece, but that's not the piece that you want to eat. You can freeze this and save this to make soup later. So now your asparagus is ready to go. I always do it on a single layer, and the biggest mistake people make is overcooking their asparagus or over oiling their asparagus. So I add my flavors on after I'm done roasting it. So here I'm going to do this. You can see how thin this asparagus is. I'm going to roast it at 400 degrees for only about 5 minutes because this is so thin. 5-6 minutes max. So I'm going to do this for 5 minutes. Okay, our asparagus is finished cooking. You can see that really nice color of green. You know that it's done. It's cooked, but it's not overcooked, okay? All right, so now we're gonna season it up. So I'm gonna use our Meyer lemon oil, and you just need a little drizzle. You don't need much at all. And then I'm going to use our versatile tongs to toss the asparagus. I get that oil coated on all of the pieces. And then I'm gonna put my salt and pepper on there, and voila, it's done to perfection. It smells so good in here, I wish you guys could smell it. So let me show you. We're gonna use the lavender salt, delicious. And we're gonna use our cherry pepper, my favorite of our pepperelli pepper milk. And voila, asparagus is done. Okay, I am going to share with you some quick, easy meal prep. Whether you're cooking for a large family or you're cooking for one or two, I'm gonna give you some great tips. So we are going to be making some chicken tonight. And if you're just cooking for a family of 3, 4, 5, you name it, you could use your Flexi Flat. I love this sitting on the medium perforated baking sheet. If you have a large family, you could use 2 of these, turn the opposite way on the large baking sheet. That's great. If you're cooking for 1 or 2 people, I would say this is a good option. You've got our half Flexi Flat with our tender heart mold. These are great for 1 or 2 people in the family, and you can separate, so you have 2 meals prepared at once, or you separate for picky eaters, which is what I'm doing in this case. So we're gonna start with some chicken that I've already got out and ready to go. And so we've got some chicken thighs and some chicken breasts, and I have already tenderized these chicken pieces. Especially the breasts, when they're big and thick like that, you want to tenderize them, and I actually use our citrus press to do so. So I pounded those out a bit for that. I'm going to put one of these chicken breasts over here, and I'm going to put the rest of the thighs over here. So what I'm going on here is showing you how I do the chicken, whether I do these as separate meals or meal preps to get ready. This one we're going to do our Mexi Flexi chicken, which is super delicious. So I've got my Tahitian lime oil that I'm gonna put on there, and I'm gonna brush that around a little bit with our silicone pastry brush to make sure it covers the entire breast. And then we're gonna flavor that up with our zesty Mediterranean herb blend. Absolutely delicious and great for this flavor. Now I could cook this just like this and it would have some great flavor, but I will tell you, we're gonna jazz this up a bit with some salsa. So you can use store-bought salsa, ready-made salsa, or this is a San Marzano salsa that I've got on my website. Check that out for sure. But I'm gonna cover that on here, give it some nice flavor, which is great. And then the other thing I'm gonna do is add some peppers to this, okay? So now I'm gonna just add a few of these around, and on top of the chicken, this is gonna cook up with the chicken. And then I'm gonna pop that in the oven with this other chicken. Let me get that going. So what we're gonna do over here is we're gonna flavor this with some Tuscan herb oil, another one of our fantastic French pantry blends. And then I'm gonna actually do this one with the lime oil, but just salt and pepper. So you can just see, you can choose a variety of what you wanna do, or mix it up a little bit, or all the same. So that one's going to have, oh, I didn't do the salt and pepper here. So you can see how nice and easy this is. Our herb blends come salt-free, so you're gonna wanna add the salt, which is great because you can control how much you put in there, and then you can add the pepper for the flavor too. So we've got salt and pepper. I didn't put the salt on there yet, but I will do that here in just a minute. But first I want to add another herb blend to this. So I'm going to do the roasted garlic and chive. It goes really nicely with that Tuscan herb oil. So you can see I'm flavoring that up. Now when you use the herb blend and you're not putting salsa on top of it like that, you want to make sure these dry herbs get wet, because if they don't, then they are going to burn real easily. So I just kind of press them into the chicken like that to make sure they're nice and wet, okay? So now you look at this, I'm going to throw this in the oven. It's all going to cook at once. And I'm either gonna have dinner for my entire family, which is what's gonna happen, or if you're cooking for one or two, you've got some meals to prep ahead of time and have them ready to go for the rest of the week. When you don't put a lot of flavor, you've got layers of flavors on here, you can eat them plain like this, but you can also then add layers if you're gonna put this in a chicken salad or you're gonna add it to fajitas or something like that. Then you've got a great base, but you can add more flavors later. So 400 degrees, this is gonna go in, and it's gonna be about 20 to 25 minutes for these to cook. Okay, our chicken is out of the oven, and you can see in the last 5 minutes of cooking, I added some cheese to the Mexi Flexi chicken. So we just add that under the last 5 minutes, cooks perfectly, melts in, and then we've got our chicken ready to go. Super quick and easy. Okay, I'm gonna share with you how to make some super simple Brussels sprouts, super delicious. Everyone's gonna love these. They're great as a meal of their own. You can add some protein and do that all in the same pan, or cook them separately, which is what I'm doing tonight, is I'm doing some meal prep. So I have cut these Brussels sprouts in half. If they were really big, I cut them in quarters, wash them, and then put them in our grande round mold is what I'm choosing to cook these in tonight, sitting on our medium perforated baking sheet. You could do the same recipe in the Flexi Flat. It would fit about the same amount, which would be great. And then you can always use a half Flexi Flat, or you could use a tender heart mold, which is great on the small perforated baking sheet if you're cooking for one or two. So same recipe, just different quantities. So then we're gonna season this up with some French Pantry. So we're gonna use our French Pantry basil oil. So delicious. So I'm gonna first put a generous amount on there. We want to really toast these up good and add some really good flavor to them. So then I'm going to toss them around so that each of the Brussels sprout pieces is coated nicely in that oil before I season them up with the salt and the pepper, okay? So then I've got my oven preheated to 400 degrees. So now I'm going to use my Cherry pepper. This is my favorite pepper from our Pep Rally pepper mill, which is a combination of 5 different, they're all separate, so you can, 5 different peppers from around the world, and you can pick and choose which one you want to use, and they come off just like that, and you can change it up to your next pepper on the grinder, and you're good to go. So I'm also going to throw some of our French Pantry celery sea salt on here as well, getting nice layers of flavor in there. And these are going to roast for 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how you like them. So if you like them still a little bit crisp, then you're going to go ahead and roast them for just 20 minutes. If you like them really well cooked, so they're a little more tender and soft to eat, then you're going to cook them for 30 minutes, okay? So I'm going to put those in the oven, 400 degrees. I'm going to do it for about 25 minutes. Okay, the Brussels sprouts are finished. You can see those look delicious, don't they? So that was 25 minutes at 400 degrees. And then as soon as they come out of the oven, they're still really hot. You're going to add the dark traditional barrel-aged balsamic, okay? This is a thicker of our balsamics. It's just amazing flavor. And the reason you don't want to cook with it is you don't want it to burn, but you definitely are going to want to add it right away because these Brussels sprouts are still nice and hot, and so you're going to add that balsamic to them, and it almost kind of caramelizes a little bit. So, oh, I wish you guys could smell it. It smells amazing in here. As I said, you can see these got nice and roasted, and if you wanted them cooked a little bit more, you could go longer. I like them like this because then as I reheat them throughout the week, they don't get overcooked in that reheating process. So, bon appetit! Okay, I'm going to share with you one of our family's favorite pork recipes. So we love pork here, and this is a roasted pork tenderloin. So we're going to make this marinade. We're going to marinate it in the Be Safe. So if you own a Be Safe, you can use that to marinate it. And if not, You can get them when they come back. But I want to show you the Eco Chop and how to make this marinade first. So we're going to do I'm doubling the recipe, so it is going to be double from what you're going to find on my website, which it is on my website, cookwiththeresa.com. So I've got 4 cloves of garlic in here, and I'm going to start by chopping that up so you can see this amazing Eco Chop and what it does all on its own. Okay, look at this garlic and what a great job the Eco Chop did of chopping it. So now I'm gonna actually use it to max my marinade as well. So I'm gonna use the traditional white balsamic. The recipe does call for a balsamic that we no longer carry, but the really nice thing is you can use any of the lighter balsamics. You can use the dark traditional balsamic as well if you would like, but I'm putting some molasses in there and some maple syrup, and so I like to do a lighter balsamic in there with the marinade. So, and then I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of my French Pantry rosemary oil. This is one of my favorite flavored oils, actually a Holy Family favorite. So then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of molasses in there and 2 tablespoons of maple syrup in there. And then we're gonna do a couple tablespoons of celery salt. So I've already grinded that up in here. So I'm gonna add that. You wanna have some nice salt and pepper on that pork tenderloin. And I'm gonna add some of our French Pantry. Just a few pulls of our pepper. Cherry is what we like best. And then the recipe calls for fresh sage and some fresh thyme, but I have this rosemary basil thyme herb blend, the French Pantry one, that I love to add for a layer of flavor. So I'm gonna put that in there. Our herbs de Provence is also a really good one to add to this mixture as well. And then I'm gonna take all that yumminess up and I'm gonna mix that up in my Eco Chop, get it nice and emulsified here. And then something special about this marinade is it's not just going to marinate your meat. You're going to make a sauce out of it later. You're going to boil it and get a sauce out of it. And so I'm gonna go ahead, my mini spatula is just out of reach here. So I'm gonna put this marinade on the pork. I've got 2 pork tenderloins here. These guys are about 2 pounds each. That's why I doubled it. So this recipe is for 1 pork tenderloin. So I'm gonna pour this yumminess all over, and then I'm gonna let that marinade. You can do it, I would do it for at least an hour. You can do it overnight. It gets really tasty. But then remember, do not dump the juice out because we're going to use that in a sauce. So. Okay, I wish you guys could smell it in here. It smells so good. This pork is finished, and so while it was cooking, it's been sitting for about 10 minutes. Like I said, let those juices kind of soak in. But while it was cooking over the stovetop, I was boiling that marinade. You can see what a nice color. It got really deep in color. And really thick and delicious. Absolutely, you guys. It's part of the secret ingredient about this pork recipe. So I just want to show you. So it's incredible. Versatile tongs to get it out, which is great. Our Santoku knife, which I haven't talked much about, is a great knife. And we're just going to show you how beautifully this pork looks inside and how nicely the knife slices it. And then I'm going to show you. Isn't that look perfectly cooked, you guys? Isn't that great? Okay, so I pulled it out of the oven at about 145, 147 with my digital thermometer, and then I let it set, like I said, for 10 minutes, and so then it cooked up to an appropriate temperature. So then look at this gorgeous sauce that you can make with the marinade. This is delicious. Your family's gonna love this. Okay, something that I really like to eat a lot of is sweet potatoes. And so you can prepare these however you want. I like to leave the skin on the potato. So when I do my roasted potatoes or my sweet potatoes, my homemade French fries, I leave the skin on because I like the nutrition that comes in the skin. And the flavor, I think, is fantastic. But you can peel them if you want. I cut them in about 1-inch cubes or so, and then I'm going to toss them with our Tahitian lime oil. This is my favorite on sweet potatoes. It just gives it a little bit of a sweet flavor almost to it. Now, you've seen me use my tongs, use my spatula. Honestly, the best way to get these coated is to use your hands and kind of get that oil in there. When you're doing roasted root vegetables, so potatoes, sweet potatoes, Brussels sprouts, parsnips, you name it, you're gonna cook those a little bit longer, and you really wanna get them coated with that oil. It's gonna give it some nice flavor and help to get an extra crispy too. That's what that comes from. So you just wanna make sure that they're nice and coated, and then once they are, Then I'm gonna wipe my hand on my apron, and then you're gonna use your celery salt. There is so much flavor in sweet potatoes, and I like the flavor of sweet potatoes. So I don't like to season them with much more than a flavored oil and salt. Maybe a little bit of pepper, but tonight I'm just gonna do the salt because I'm not sure what I'm gonna be eating with these throughout the week. So we're gonna do a different protein, and I will add these to my meal. I also like to add these sweet potatoes to my crustless quiche. So I don't want to add too much flavor at this point. So these are gonna roast on my Flexi Flat and my medium perforated baking sheet, also known as our little dynamic duo. This is gonna go in the oven, 400 degrees for about 25 minutes. Okay, the sweet potatoes are finished. As you can see, they're nice and done, but they're not overcooked, okay? Because that's really important, because I'm going to serve these at a couple meals with my meal prep and put them in my quiche. I don't want them overcooked. So they're still tender enough to eat tonight, but I'll be able to enjoy them for several days. And oh, it smells so good in here. Okay, I'm gonna show you one of my favorite green bean recipes. This is just part of my meal prep. I like to make them ahead of time so then I can eat off of them for several meals this week. And so the green beans, I'm gonna do them in our Flexi Flat that's sitting on our medium perforated baking sheet. You also could steam them in the microwave in the round mold with our octagonal bottom mat. That's a really good option in a quick circumstance when you don't have time to roast them. But my oven's already on since I'm doing meal prep tonight, so I'm gonna do them like this. So you're just gonna trim your fresh green beans. So you can cut them with a knife. These I just snap off just like I do the ends of the asparagus, and they're ready to go. And then I'm going to use our Meyer lemon oil. It is absolutely my favorite on green beans. I love our line of French pantry oils and vinegars. Lots of great flavors, easy to add and easy to cook with. As you can see, mine back there, it's not for show. I actually use them to cook with every single day. So now I'm just gonna kind of toss these green beans around so that they're coated with that oil, and then I'm just gonna add some salt and pepper. Tonight I'm using our French Pantry lavender salt, love this one. And then I'm going to use some pepper from our Pep Rally pepper mill. As you guys may have already figured out, the Telecherry is my favorite, but we have 4 other wonderful varieties of pepper as well. So these are gonna roast at 400 degrees for about 15 minutes. That's how I like them. There's still a little crunch to them, but if you would like them cooked a little bit more, you could do 20 minutes. Okay, the green beans are finished. I'm gonna add just a little more salt at the end and a little more pepper to taste. Always you wanna test your vegetables, any of your food, and see how it tastes at the end, and then you'll decide if you wanna add a little more salt and pepper off to finish it. So go enjoy.